All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Aftershow for the Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge, the last day of semifinal action. It is a pleasure and an honor today to be joined by Grandmaster Wesley. Wesley, welcome to the show, and thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Pascal, for having me, and I'm very glad to be part of the Chess 24 show.
Yeah, we're very happy. We're very happy to have someone of your caliber to analyze the games. It's going to be a little bit different than when it's me. So I'm looking forward to having your input and insight. So today we saw the victory of Hikaru Nakamura over Magnus Carlsen in the last matchup of their semifinal. So he wins the tiebreaker and makes it to the finals against Daniel Dubov. Hikaru has struggled in the past against Magnus, so it's a big win for him. What did you think of the general match today?
Yeah, well, it was a very impressive win by Hikaru, considering it was such a great comeback. Because after he lost 3-0 on the first day, you think Magnus is in very good shape. Also because he crushed me in the previous match just before. So you think that, okay, Magnus is in like a really good shape and he's on a roll and he's just going to crush Hikaru. But then Hikaru came back the very next day and he hang on and he survived. And then today he just played better chess than Magnus overall.
Yeah, I thought it was impressive today too. Yeah, you were gonna say something else, I think.
Yeah, I think the again in the Armageddon game, Magnus was better, of course, but in the Armageddon with a minute on the clock and with no increments, anything can happen. We we can see from previous game.
Yeah, it's always with no increment. It's tricky. Do you prefer to pick white or black in these Armageddon, or do you have a preference, or not really? Or
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. I was thinking about it before my match with Magnus, although of course I never even came close to an Armageddon in any match. But I was thinking if I did get an Armageddon, I would actually choose
okay,
white pieces,
yeah,
because yeah, white. Because also the rule, the Armageddon rule in this tournament is different from most Armageddon tournaments because usually you get an increment after move 60, but here you don't.
yeah. It's yeah, without the increment, I think we're thinking of maybe having increment in the future. It does seem like there's not really enough draws like in these five versus four. A draw is not so likely. So then maybe you just prefer to be white, have an extra minute, and it's better to be white than black. Um,
Yeah, that's true. I think white is better in this rule without any increment if it's play to finish. If there's an increment on move 40, then of course you pick black. If it's move 60, then it's 50-50.
mhm.
But yes, the problem today is that Magnus allowed Hikaru to be ahead on the clock actually. So Hikaru was ahead on the clock at the end of the day, and that was the big turning point of their Armageddon game.
Now, you've been very busy. Ricardo also has been very busy. You just won the clutch chess tournament that was held some of the days at the same. Did you have to? Was there any day where you had to play two matches yourself?
Oh, you're right. This is the first time I had to do that. I think when was it? Perhaps last year I had to play two online tournaments in one day. I played the Chess 960 qualifier, uh, the knockout and the knockout stage, and then I had to play the Pro Chess League before that. So that was the only time I played two tournaments in one day.
Yeah. Um,
But
well, good job on winning the clutch chess event. You played some of the same players. You actually had good success against Hikaru there, right? And then you beat Fabiano in the final.
yeah, I think in the against Hikaru, the match went quite well. I was getting good positions. Uh, but he was saying a lot of tricks when I got low on time. So it was very I was very fortunate to pass that match because he was putting a lot of pressure. And also in the clutch games, we played 12 games per per match against the same player. But games 5 and 6 are worth 2 points apiece, and games 11 and 12 are worth 3 points apiece.
Mm-hmm.
So those are actually the games that matter.
Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about. I know you are the Fisher Random world champion. You created a course for Chessable on Fisher Random. Can you tell us a little bit about the course and what you talk about in the course?
Yes, I did. It was actually my first course on Chessable. I might do more in the future, but it's my first course on Chessable, and I like doing something new. It's I think it went well. So on the course, I talked about my journey to becoming the first Fisher Random Chess Champion. I talk about uh, how I got there, about my opponents getting through that stage because I had to win like 6 matches just to qualify to go to Norway. And also in that series, I talked about my games, how they went. I talk about typical tricks and strategies, about tactics on chess 960, and I also talked about the intricacies of the game, how every game is different, but at the same time, the strategies and the basics of chess are still there.
Mm-hmm.
And I also went into some detail, especially my match against Magnus, which was very surprising, considering the fact that I was the big underdog going into that match, and how it turned out was shocking even to me.
Well, that's yeah, it's a very impressive result no matter how you look at it. So I guess
Yeah, I still can't believe it happened.
well, I guess we should take a look. We should take a look at today's games. So I have them loaded up here. I've always been curious in this match how what openings these guys are going to play. They have a little bit of overlap, in their repertoire, in the sense that both of them can play like this Berlin in the against e4. I actually noticed today that one of the games that Magnus played with White, the first game actually, that Nakamura had a game, with the white pieces in exactly the same variation, which probably Magnus had seen. So yeah, I don't know. Were you expecting Magnus to play e4 or d4 today? Would you have guessed correctly? Or I guess he played both. So.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I was following the match from start to finish. I mean, Magnus and Hikaru are probably the two strongest blitz rapid players in the world, and their match is always very entertaining to watch. So I followed it with great interest from day 1 all the way to day 3, and yeah, today Hikaru played better chess, I believe, than Magnus. He seems to be in great form, and he's very eager for revenge. But I was very surprised by Magnus' opening choice on the first game. I think he simply ran out of ideas because yeah, knight c3, knight f6, d4. This seems to be like a very quiet way to play with the white pieces because they. Okay,
Yeah,
d4.
I because a few days ago he had success with sort of a strange like an old variation of the Scotch, I guess, with knight takes c6, queen f3 in the Scotch, and then in another time he tried but then it seems like this one idea was not quite as then he had the line, I guess he had the line with where he played with bishop g5 and castle queenside,
Sure.
but yeah, this variation in
Yeah,
particular is a little bit more difficult for white to get an interesting position against a well-prepared opponent, I guess.
yeah, and the problem is that it's not even so hard to remember all the details with black. Like his play is natural and easy. So this line is very solid for white, but it's also very solid for black. Like he takes d5. Like even for instance, if Hikaru, because Hikaru can take on d5 here with the pawn. He takes d5, and
Mm-hmm.
there's not so much theory to remember. He just plays c6 through p8.
Yeah, there's lines like this, right? And then they do some queen f3.
Yeah, probably rook b8.
Yeah, I guess black is not worried about the doubled pawns in this position.
No, because you get the bishop there. And also, like, in the endgame, the double pawns are not a big problem. They're easily defendable. So I actually had some experience with both colors myself here with this variation, and it seems like it doesn't really give white anything much to work on, unless black makes a serious inaccuracy. So I'm quite surprised that he went for this.
And then Hikaru played this bishop g4, which actually, frankly, I don't remember seeing this move, but when I looked at it afterwards, I saw there were quite a lot of games with this, including one by Hikaru himself where I think he was white. So he obviously knew what he was doing here.
Yeah, the point of bishop g4 is black wants to secure the draw right away. Like, I played it with black, Levon Aronian has played it, I think Vidit has played it, and Mami Diarov. So all the top players have played it. And here I thought bishop g5 was more ambitious.
Instead of pawn takes c6, you're saying bishop g5. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some theory in here. And here at least black has to remember a few accurate moves. In order to equalize. But after d takes c6, Lebon Aronian has a game here against Yu Yang Yi. And he equalized very, very easily. So queen d4. I think also Magnus has played this before when he was white. So I'm not exactly sure what he's hoping for. Take, bishop f4. Queens. The problem is that white has the bishop pair, but then black will get rid of it next move with bishop g6.
Yeah.
So, but as we can see from the game, I don't think Magnus achieved too much. Yeah.
No. Yeah, h3 was a little bit... I mean, frankly, I wasn't sure what really was the idea of h3. Did you understand the idea of h3?
In order to prevent background mate later.
Yeah, that's true. So it gives luft to the king. I guess that's maybe a useful sort of waiting move, but
right. It's mostly a waiting move.
But yeah, so black goes and tries to get the bishop pair, which is usually a good. It's easier to play with knight against bishop than against the pair.
Yeah, you have to get rid of your opponent's bishop pair. Bishop pair is an advantage in chess. We need to. Yeah, knight d5. And actually, I'm not sure who's playing for an advantage now, because after bishop g3, knight b4, white pawns are quite vulnerable.
Yeah, it looked like maybe white has to try to equalize, but it seems like the move. Now he played this bishop e4, which seemed to be a good move.
To ease up the pressure.
Yeah.
C3, rook a,
D1.
rook b8, queen d2. Yeah, it's not clear who's playing for an advantage. Probably take.
Yeah, I guess the draw was probably a fair result in a fairly well played game, but it certainly didn't feel like Magnus could be too happy with the outcome because he didn't have much of a chance to fight for an advantage in this first game. And
the thing is also he went for this variation very willingly. So okay, rook d3, rook a6, rook d3 forces the draw.
Yeah, and so they get a rook ending here, which is just 3 against 3. Even if it was 3 against 2, would still be a draw.
It would still be a book draw. Yeah. Although you wouldn't want to give your opponent chances to keep playing.
Yeah.
But,
so the first game not too big of a success for Magnus with the white pieces, and so that takes them into the second game.
I think maybe the only reason that I could think of that Magnus went for this line on the first game was maybe he thought that Hikaru would play c takes d5 instead of bishop g4. Then maybe he has some ideas there.
Right. So Wesley is saying here that after ed, maybe on cd, he had some idea, and maybe he was willing to gamble, not gamble, but just, if Hikaru knows everything in bishop g4, then he doesn't have anything, and on CD maybe he has some idea. Although the problem is I feel like there's so many ways, like you can play bishop e7. Maybe he had some ideas against c6, or I don't know. It's interesting. I guess we'll never know. We'll never know.
Yeah, there's also another line. So bishop g5, white can play like bishop g5 play like h3, c6, queen f3, and then put the bishop directly on f4. And I think in the last Waikanze tournament a few months back, there had been some games like this.
Okay. Interesting. And I guess on bishop g4, as far as you know, the theory says that it's more or less okay for black. This variation.
Yeah, because Levon Aronian has played this with black and some other top players, and so it has been basically analyzed to a draw.
Yeah.
If black remembers the theory. And d takes c6 on move 11 is quite dry.
Yeah. Here, so yeah, you were talking about bishop g5 as being a little bit more testing for black. Yeah, interesting.
Maybe.
So I guess we can move to the second game, and at some point I'm going to ask you what you think of the final, but I guess we'll leave that for after we analyze all the games.
The final. Oh, sure. Yeah.
But so the second game, so Hikaru chose to play e4, which is interesting, and Magnus went for a6. He's also been playing knight f6 a lot in this tournament, which you had some games, and it seemed to me that in this the bishop c5 stuff, you got a good position. I thought Hikaru got a good position in one of the matches, but I guess he got a bad position in a g4 game.
All right. Yeah. The piece sacrifice.
Yeah, the piece sacrifice game, which was interesting. I guess bishop e7 was a novelty there, and that was pretty interesting. But so here Magnus decided to play a6, and
I guess you just want to avoid any preparation done by Hikaru.
Yeah, how often has Magnus played the open? Has he played this a lot? I guess back in the day he was playing it a lot.
Yeah, actually he has played this a lot recently, but after d4 he plays bishop e7. Oh, yeah, bishop. Wait, d4. What was the line there? D4 played bishop. Was it bishop e7?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm honestly not sure. But I'm not sure. Because here he plays into like the main line of the open. I didn't remember seeing that too often from him, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I just checked the base. So he played their bishop e7 quite a bit.
Instead of d5.
Instead of b5.
Yeah, instead of b5 and d5, he's played bishop e7 right away.
Yeah, and then the theory goes rook e1, b5, etc.
Yeah.
And then rook takes e4. Then.
Oh yeah, I do remember seeing. Yeah, I do remember seeing those.
d5 knight. This very weird line.
Yeah. So, but here he goes into the main line of the open Spanish, and Hikaru decides to play queen e2, which is sort of a line that's kind of been, I think it's been kind of analyzed to the end almost, and but you have to know everything for black. Is that about right, or?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Anish Giri played this with white against Vishy Anand in last year's Grandchester in Croatia, and the game ended in a draw. But no, Anand had the white. What was something? No, Anish Giri had the white piece against. But yeah, anyway, I'm quite surprised. It was. Anand had some games with this black when he's back, and and he defends it very well. I must say that I'm very surprised that Magnus went for the open Rui Lopez.
Uh-huh.
Well, for two things. Because the opener Lopez, I played it also, and it's super concrete. Like you have to know many lines, and you have to know exact lines. If you make one mistake with black, you could get a very bad position right away from the opening. And he had many other different setups to choose from. So I'm not sure why he went for the open. So he either prepared or it. But personally, it doesn't make sense to memorize a lot of lines for a semi-rapid, semi-blitz game.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've seen Hikaru play Queen E2 before, or how many times
Before.
Hikaru was faced the open, but it's um but it in this line, Magnus sort of did all the right moves, but he took a lot of time. So in this game, Magnus quite quickly was behind on the clock by like minute. I mean, at some point, I think he was down. Like Hikaru had 13 minutes and Magnus had 1 minute. So
Yeah,
maybe he like he just had to spend a lot of time to remember the correct way to play. And because, like you said, it seems like it's pretty tough if you don't know the theory. It's very tough
yeah.
to figure out all this stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
after Queen E2, there's another line, Knight C5, which is also
Instead of Bishop
interesting.
E7, Knight C5. Huh?
Yeah, to win the bishop on B3, to win the
Mhm.
bishop. And there have been some high-level games with this move also. But I think the reason Magnus spent a lot of time is that he didn't expect Hikaru to play Queen E2 simply.
Yeah,
And yeah, maybe he didn't review this line. But I'm sure that Hikaru also didn't expect to face the open Rui Lopez, but he might have remembered some critical games from the past. So he just decided to play Queen E2, test Magnus a little bit, and it worked,
yeah.
surprisingly.
I guess it turned out to be a good choice. It's always easy when you've seen the result. It's easy to judge both decisions, but yeah, it seems like Hikaru was okay with getting a position that was going to be a draw if Black knows everything perfectly. And it seems like he's always been kind of happy to get a little bit closer to Armageddon. I think he feels very confident that he has a good chance in Armageddon, so he's not too afraid of getting there. Um,
Oh, Hikaru, huh?
yeah, Hikaru, yeah.
Yeah, Armageddon.
Well,
Yeah, I
like
guess.
because in the match yesterday when he was leading 1.5 to half, um, he played with white and was kind of okay with getting like a very sterile line, and he was fine with making a draw. I guess to make sure that he at least gets to Armageddon, put pressure on Magnus to win in the fourth game. Um,
Yeah, that. Well, Hikaru is a very. Oh, sorry.
no, no problem.
Hikaru is a very confident player. So either he doesn't mind the Armageddon, or he was just very confident that he would hold the opening with the black pieces.
Yeah,
So it's either one of the things for me. But yeah, this has C4. This has all been played before.
yeah. It's hard to make too many explanations just because it seems like both sides have analyzed this a lot, and it's very very concrete. Um,
Yeah, take Queen B8.
yeah, Queen B8 is sort of a hard move to find on the over the board, I think, but these
Yeah,
guys know
not
it.
yeah. The funny part is that this position, yeah, Knight A, Bishop B3, Knight A5. Yeah, there are other moves here too instead of Knight D4. Like there's also Knight B2. There's also Knight E1, I believe.
With the idea to play F3, I guess, threatening to trap the knight.
Yeah, yeah. Anish Giri played Knight B2 against
Knight.
Nishi Anand,
Uh huh.
and then their game went Queen A7. A funny way to trade queens.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess indirectly defend the knight on E4 being threatened.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean these open Spanish have a lot of the theory goes deep in all these lines. It's kind of a somewhat narrow path, but very deep. Um,
yeah. That. Yeah, I played the Open Spanish myself from time to time, but before I played, I have to review it for like 4 hours
yeah,
just to
yeah.
be sure I don't.
I remember these lines in the open Spanish with like, I don't know if this is the line that you play, but like the lines with this knight takes f2, like in the bishop c5 variations, where you get like two pieces, white gets two pieces, but black has like nice open lines, and but there's so much theory, like I couldn't. I mean, I would need like 12 hours to review the theory before I can play this stuff.
Shakri Armageddon played
Yeah.
that line.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the good thing with the open Spanish is that it's probably a forced draw if you play all the best moves. But if you forget a move at the critical option, you can just very well lose the game. So it's a high risk, high reward sort of opening.
It's tough. It's tough for both sides. It's good because I remember also there's the one line that ends with like an end game with where white has a better structure, but it's supposed to be a draw. Like you have light squared bishops, and I think it's a line with d4 and d3 that black plays.
Yeah.
And again, it's like super concrete. The theory has been worked out, and it seems like it's slightly worse for black, but not really. I guess black has made draws a lot of times.
I know.
Yeah. So this variation. So it's interesting. So Hikaru goes knight d4, and he was still playing very very fast here. C5, knight takes e6, pawn takes e6, f3, c4. Magnus, however, was spending a lot of time. I guess this is kind of forced here, so there's not too much.
The knight is trapped.
Yeah, fe, cb, ed.
Takes a2.
B takes a2. Knight c. Rook takes a2.
Knight c4.
Knight c4. Queen d4. And now, queen b3. I saw the computer actually like some other move here.
Was it here?
Oh, maybe not here. Maybe it's on the next move actually. Knight c3. Oh yeah. Well, here the computer, but also I think it's been played before. Rook c8 has been played in a game. I forget who it was. But that one looked.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I saw one game looked okay for black. Here, pawn takes e6, and knight takes b2, and it seems like black survives this one without too much trouble. The knight on c3 is attacked, the rook is attacked, and there's some forcing ways here. Like I think it's e7. E7, rook e8, and then it's some. I think it's queen d5. I mean, I don't know if white has something better. Queen d5, then queen takes, rook takes, and then this rook b2, rook e7. And it's just equal. But yeah, so rook c8 I think was probably the best move, although there was maybe nothing wrong with what Magnus played. Knight takes b2, rook b1.
Well, I must say also that rook ac8 was played by our good friend Anish Giri back in 2016.
Yeah.
So
and
rook ac8,
he's someone that Magnus knows well, of course, but I guess Anish can make fun of him on Twitter.
But I mean, Anish knew the best move already.
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
This was 4 years ago, so Anish is well ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Knight takes b2.
Yeah, I guess knight takes b2 actually is a very human move. If computers didn't exist, I don't think anyone would find rook ac8.
Someone in the chat saying it was Giri Caruana was the game.
Yeah. Right.
So Anish maybe was white actually.
No, Anish was black.
Anish was black? Okay. So then the person in the chat has it wrong, yeah.
No, maybe he meant Anish was...
Yeah. But so knight takes b2. Yeah, so like you said, it seems like a pretty human move if you're not.
I think so.
Because you're not giving the e6 pawn so easily. Yeah.
Yeah, you gain a pawn, you play queen c4 next move. So it seems very human move actually. Queen c4, and it should be enough to draw also. Takes de6. I wonder now why he didn't take. I mean, I'm sure there's a reputation. But
take on e5 or?
Yeah.
If he takes on e5, is there? I don't know if there's like e7 and knight d5 or something like that. maybe it's annoying the knight getting to d5.
Oh, okay. Or maybe he plays knight d5 after knight takes
Oh yeah.
d5.
Knight b5
Yeah,
right away.
knight b5, not d.
Oh, knight d5. Yeah, sure. Threatening, I guess, e7 or threatening knight c7.
Right, threatening knight to win an exchange.
Yeah, it's a little bit annoying. So he
Black
plays.
has to find rook a7.
Yeah. So he plays rook f5, and I think, at least I looked at it for a little bit, and it seems like he was still reasonably okay.
Yeah, knight d5 is a very good move.
Yeah, knight d5 was not a sneaky, very sneaky move. And yeah, with this idea, rook takes e5, rook takes a6, with the mate ideas if black. So he starts to have all these ideas with trying to deflect the rook from the 8th rank. Rook e8.
Yeah, rook e8 is correct. Knight c7.
Yeah, and I guess this
Magnus
is
blundered.
Yeah, he sort of lost a critical tempo here, I guess. Let the rook come in. And so the correct move was to play rook f8, I think.
Yeah, rook f8 or rook c8, either.
Yeah, I guess rook c8 is much more natural. Attack a piece.
Yeah, I must mention the reason why rook d8 is a mistake. It's very concrete. Yeah, because the problem if you go to d8 compared to c8 or to c8, in d8, the rook. If you put the rook on d8, the rook has some concrete problems on that square. Later, it could get attacked with tempo by pushing the pawn on e7. And also, like in the game, white had a very extremely deadly rook c6 followed by rook d6, which just wins the whole house. So for instance here, like instead of knight e3, knight d2 loses right away to rook d6. And if you take, there's a back rank checkmate. So that's the problem by rook d8. Otherwise, rook d8 would be a perfectly fine move. Otherwise, rook d8 would hold the game, but it doesn't work concretely. So that's too bad, actually.
Yeah, it's close. Rook c8, and I guess black. It doesn't seem so obvious, but I guess black should be able to hold this position.
Yeah, rook c8, rook c6, and then knight d2.
Yeah, and I guess the knight is just coming back. I don't know. What are the lines here if we play...
Let's say rook bc1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, I don't know, now maybe perhaps rook d8.
Yeah, now that the rook is not on this file.
Yeah. And the good thing is that the rook on e5 is superly well placed. Like it controls everything from there. And the white king cannot approach. His knight is stuck on c7. So it's not so easy for him to make progress.
Yeah. Yeah, so rook d8 sort of was a big mistake. Magnus was very short on time, so this just shows how hard it is to
Yeah, he probably missed rook c6, rook d6 idea.
Yeah.
And he for sure missed this, yeah.
Yeah, and then the rook on d7 is really well placed to support e7, e8.
Right. Also because of after knight f5, white has some g4. So.
Yeah, the knight doesn't have a good square here.
Yeah, if black could play knight f5 and h5, he probably holds, but
one tempo short.
Yeah, one tempo. Yeah, unfortunately, after rook d6 is just totally lost. So there's no way Magnus could come back.
Yeah. So the game ended with h6, e7,
h7.
king h7, and rook e1, and now the spin.
Yeah, The sad part is that Magnus could not even get to rook and knight versus two rooks ending.
Right. Yeah, because he's actually going to lose. I think he's going to lose probably a full rook, because White's threat is just to play e8. So if
E8.
let's say we do some move, e8 takes, and then the rook pins this, and there's no way to even get there. So yeah, so it's unfortunate for Black here. Yeah, so that was sort of a surprising game where Hikaru managed to kind of get Magnus in an uncomfortable position, spent a lot of time and couldn't hold it. So, but then they get to game 3. Magnus switched back to this line with d4 that Hikaru has seen many times in this last few tournaments. A lot of people have been playing with bishop f4.
Very solid line, yeah.
Yeah, he seems to enjoy well, or at least hard to say if he enjoys it, but he's decided that it's solid enough to hold, and he's had a lot of games. Of course, they've had many games with c5, but here today Magnus played bishop e2. I guess he had some preparation for these games today.
I see. Yeah, for sure he has, because you cannot play this line with White without any specific preparation, because otherwise Black will just make an easy draw, or worse, take the advantage. So you need to have some preparation if you're going for this, because obviously Hikaru has played this like 20 games or 25 games with Black just this year alone.
Yeah,
maybe not 25, maybe around 20.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So,
it's a lot.
So you need something specific.
Yeah, and this, I guess the variation that he played today was interesting. I wasn't too familiar with it. And castles.
Yeah, I actually also want to mention this position here. Like, Black has other good and solid moves. Like, he could play c5. Yeah, he could play c5, and then usually White takes on c5, he takes c5. And then now both recaptures, knight takes c5 or bishop takes c5, are known to be very solid for Black.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's interesting that, so because Hikaru in this game goes for knight b6, and then he faces this again in Armageddon. And in Armageddon he played a6, I think.
He played a6. Oh, did he? Okay.
And so so I guess he didn't go for c5. And then I also saw, because in this game the opening was not really a success for Hikaru, I guess. I mean, he gave the interview after, and he said that this game he just didn't quite get into the game, so he didn't get to enjoy his win from the previous game for very long. I also saw there was an interesting game. I marked it down in my notes here. I think it was Giri Aronian with knight h5.
Right.
And it gets kind of complicated. Bishop e5, f6, and then knight g5. And I thought it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, Black seemed okay in that game, but it's not entirely clear. It's complicated.
You're right. Yeah, actually, that's a very nice game. Levon won this. I'm very familiar with this game, actually, because I used to play this with White. And I believe this game was played in 2012. Probably 2012, right? Oh, yeah, 2012. In the Waikanze. Right. Their game continued bishop d7, bishop f3, and then now Lebon made beautiful sacrifice, rook f3, gf3, bishop d6.
Bishop d6.
And then Lebon had great compensation for the exchange because of the weakness of the king side. So this is a very nice game, actually, by Lebon.
That's interesting. Yeah, very creative exchange sacrifice. But
actually, like after that, after knight h5, bishop e5, f6, White found an improvement. So bishop g3 is known to be stronger here. It's actually first played by the American player Conrad Holt.
And does Black take the bishop? I guess they take the bishop. C5.
Take the bishop, hg3. Yeah, I mean, white is fighting for an advantage here.
Uh-huh.
There's quite. I
This
remember
structure is a little
somehow
bit.
the computer recommends a weird move like Queen E8 followed
Huh.
by Queen G6. So that's what the computer says is best. Like I analyzed this a
Interesting.
few years ago. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, there's a
uh,
lot. It just shows. It's nice to talk to you because it shows the depth of preparation and analysis that you have compared to mere mortals like myself or the
uh,
people watching watching the after show.
yeah. I waste
Uh,
a lot of time on chess. No,
yeah.
but that's a good
No.
thing about chess 960 because like yeah, I mean here you get the theory all the way to move 15, but
So I mean, when you play chess 960, and obviously I don't want you to give, your world champion secrets, but how do you like you first see this position with all these pieces in a random squares? Like, what is the first thing you do? Do you think like, what pawn structure am I going to try to get? Do you think like what piece am I? What's my or what's I because I don't know that everyone has the same approach, to how you figure this out.
well, the basic principles of chess still apply actually. Like develop your pieces clearly. So that's the first thing you do is to look at where your bishops are, where your knights are, and try to activate them. And then second, try to get your king to safety right away. So if your king is in a bad position, try to get it to castle right away. And then yeah, finally to control the center. So mostly the basics in the opening
So it's
are
basically back to basics. Just make reasonable choices, not too eccentric at the beginning.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay, so Hikaru plays knight d5.
yeah.
Uh,
Knight FD5. I'm not very familiar.
I
Bishop
think
C3.
I actually think at least from my database, I think I didn't see a single game with that move. Um,
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
and then he
But
played
actually,
c5. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm a bit confused why Hikaru played Knight B6 because he already won the first game,
Mm-hmm.
and with Knight B6 it's a very risky line because you're a pawn up, but White has good compensation.
Right,
And
it's sort of aggressive way to play. If, like you said, the line with c5 is considered quite solid, then yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting that he chose a more risky.
C5 or A6 because Sergei Karyakin played A6 just a month ago, so maybe their
And
game continued A6.
Hikaru played a6 in the Armageddon, so I guess he decided to
Sure.
review. He had a few minutes only, but to review a little bit. But it's interesting. Okay, so after knight b6, queen c2, knight d5, bishop g3,
Bishop
c.
D7.
He
Oh,
played
did he play
c5.
C5?
Yeah, he played c5. And
Ah,
I know
yeah.
already the computer doesn't like his position after this move. And the computer was looking at either bishop d7 or bishop d6. Um,
Ah, or Bishop. Yeah, so maybe that's one interesting thing. Maybe, just maybe, Hikaru forgot his preparation, mix up the move order.
it's possible.
Be- Yeah, maybe he intended to play Bishop D7 in his preparations
Hmm.
to activate the bishop, and the idea is to control the A4 square. So he probably mixed up his
His move order.
preparation.
Yeah. Yeah, because after c5, pawn takes, bishop takes, rook fd1, it looked a little bit awkward for Hikaru, and
Yeah,
he didn't really find a convenient way out here. So he played bishop d7, makes sense to get block the pin, knight e5, starting to be some threats already with some e4.
E4. Yeah, it's always unpleasant to have the queen on the same diagonal as the enemy rook.
He plays rook c8.
Yeah, rook C8. Yeah, I guess rook C8 is a good move.
Rook c1. Yeah, if rook c8 is met by rook c1, it means I guess it was a good move because at least it's not rook c1 is not super scary. um,
Yeah.
but knight b4, yeah, I think knight b4 was maybe a mistake because after queen e4 he just went back. I don't know if he planned to do something else or not. But it still wasn't super easy. I think I looked at f6 as a move, but it's not easy to suggest actually a good move for black here.
F6 is the best move according to, but it requires some calculation.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
after knight d7, q d7, e4, you need to calculate knight b4.
Yeah, this line is it's a little bit bizarre, but I guess here maybe black is not doing so badly after knight d4.
Yeah, probably black rook f7 next move.
Yeah, and I guess there's some tactics, maybe knight d5 or.
You're right, knight d5 is brilliant.
So it's sort of, it's a little bit, but of course this is hard. This is hard to see in this time control. So he plays knight b4, and after queen e4, he goes back. I guess thinking that now at least the queen is on the square, so there's no e4 tactic. So he's just trying to hold things together. And Magnus plays queen f3, which is kind of logical. The queen is not a bad square. And now he's probably threatening some kind of knight d7 with e4.
Right, knight d7 and e4. Yeah, so, queen f3 is a very good move.
Yeah. And now maybe there's just no really easy. Well, there's no easy, or maybe there's no way to really get a good position for black. But things did go downhill pretty fast here. He played bishop a4.
The mistake. Yeah, it's a mistake. Yeah. Bishop a4.
Yeah, just I guess I'm sure he saw this, but decided that maybe this was his best chance to go for the two pieces against the rook. But maybe he thought that the c pawn can give something. But yeah, it was just really bad.
I think Hikaru didn't like his position already after queen f3.
Yeah.
And bishop a4 was just desperation.
Yeah. And here, yeah, when he gave the interview after, he said that he actually thought that in this case, Magnus played not the most accurate way. It still was completely winning, but he was saying that it was a sign that maybe Magnus, at least for him, it felt like a sign that Magnus was not in the best form. Because he thinks in form Magnus would play knight takes f7, bishop g3, and then just knight e5, I guess, and then take with the queen, which is simpler. And he played bishop f7, which looks good, but after king h8, and it seems like Magnus missed king h8. He had to think a little bit, and he managed to find this resource, but almost a little bit lucky that he's got this move, bishop g6, and then it does win rather easily after.
Actually, I'm not 100% sure what Hikaru said is accurate, because I have a feeling Magnus saw queen h5 before playing f7. Just my feeling.
Yeah, so maybe you're right. Then maybe because in this case, actually, it is pretty convincing. This looks pretty. I mean, I could see how he would feel like this is completely winning, and if he finds that he doesn't need to find. There's not really much better than this. It's as winning as he needs to have it, So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because queen h5 and bishop g6 is not so difficult to spot.
Yeah.
And here white is threatening queen takes h6, so black has no time to give a pin.
Yeah.
c5.
Yeah. So here Hikaru trades queens, and after that, basically the game was just over.
Lost, yeah.
The bishops are very strong.
Yeah, the two bishops. Yeah.
This was a nice move.
And what's the idea? Bishop b1, and then d7.
Yeah, and the king never quite gets out of trouble.
Yeah, probably Magnus didn't play all the best moves, but what he played was more than sufficient.
Yeah.
Bishops are just.
So this takes us to the fourth game. So the fourth game, Magnus tries something different than knight takes e4. He plays bishop e7, and Hikaru plays h3, so it doesn't get into the marshal. I don't know if Magnus was going to play the marshal or not, but
he probably is playing, because that's mostly what he plays these days. He doesn't go for normal Ray Lopez lines like Breyer.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, but Marshall is good. But actually, I'm surprised because this was actually played in their World Championship match, right?
Mm-hmm.
Magnus against Sergei Karyakin, if I'm not mistaken.
I
Right,
think you're right. Yeah.
2016. So in that game, he played d5 instead of d6.
Yeah, and those lines have are interesting. It's like a sort of a art hybrid martial, right? You play knight d4 here.
Yeah, take knight 5 knight. Right, you're right. Knight before with the bishop, and I
Yeah.
think black's doing okay. I mean, I haven't followed the current theory about all these d5 lines, but I'm just surprised because I think everyone plays d6 nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure what's wrong with d5.
Yeah, I don't. I certainly don't know. um, so they get to this line, which Magnus has also had. Amazingly, that I found a game that Magnus had against Zigalko. I'm not sure which of the Zigalko, but where Zigalko played knight g3, and then Magnus played. It's actually quite similar. Bishop f8, knight g5, and then d5. So it's a little bit similar. Hikaru played knight g5 right away,
I
and I mean the main difference is that here on ED, Black has knight c5, which was the game of Jigalko, which in the game he doesn't have this because there's d6 with the bishop on e7. So that maybe that's why Hikaru decided to try knight g5. Then on d5 ED, he has to take back because this just loses some material.
right. Yeah, there's a lot of complexities.
Yeah,
I
some
believe he has
subtlety.
theory.
Um,
Right.
but it looks like Magnus managed to get a reasonable position. He was forced to give his bishop on bishop versus the knight, but it looks like a solid position.
Yeah,
I
that's
actually
very
wanted to ask you what you thought of.
I actually don't like Queen E7 that much. Maybe
Okay.
it's just me. Like
Yeah.
I prefer two other moves here.
Uh-huh.
So I like Knight F8. Knight F8 is my first choice actually. Not to play
Break.
to put the knight on E6.
Mm-hmm.
And then
What was the other one?
I also like C5 maybe. Looks very natural.
Oh yeah.
To control C4. And then to play Knight F8 next move.
Mm-hmm.
Because White's idea is to try to attack the king with Rook E4. Yeah, like now. Rook E4, Knight G3, Knight F5.
Yeah.
But then I guess Black can play Knight F8, and then he can always defend the 7th rank with Rook A7 at some point.
Yeah, it does look fairly solid for Black. Yeah, it's interesting because it did seem like after Queen E7, the position that Magnus got looked like borderline unpleasant after.
Yeah, it became not so easy.
Yeah, this
in
after
the-
A4, it looks a little bit. It could be a little bit of trouble if you're not careful here.
After A4. Yeah, because yeah, maybe he could consider B4 to close the position. Maybe B4. Interesting.
Yeah, that's
then-
interesting.
White cannot win the pawn because if he tries, like, I don't know, if he plays Queen E4, there's A5,
Mhm.
or instead of Queen E4, if White plays A5, then Black can play C5 and keep
Yeah.
the position close.
Yeah, maybe
And it
B4.
seems quite safe. Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
wonder if White can try D4.
D4.
Maybe with this idea to play Queen B3.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
some. Although, yeah, maybe Queen D6 or something. Queen D6, Queen B3, Knight E6.
Uh huh.
I'm not sure.
Interesting. Yeah, gets a little messy with the idea that
Yeah.
the bishop on D2. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know, but he played because Magnus played Rook B8, and then Hikaru takes Rook A6, and it looks like White maybe is a little bit, seems like White's a little bit better. But then Hikaru didn't get much, so maybe Magnus had it under control. I don't know.
Yeah, no, actually, Hikaru got a little something, but he was quite content with the draw, I think. That's just my feeling.
Yeah.
Because the the pressure on the E file is a bit annoying, actually.
Yeah, where
A file.
do you think there's a point where maybe Hikaru could have tried something a little bit more?
Yeah, move 28 here. Maybe rook 1 A5.
Uh-huh. Rook A5,
Just
yeah.
to attack this pawn. Yeah. Maybe here, rook 1 A5. And it's not so easy to defend the pawns.
So if black plays knight D4,
Yeah, black plays knight D4, white takes, bishop takes D4. He takes D4. And then now possibly queen C6 or something.
yeah. So you're just playing for this. All these pawns are a little bit weak. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, C7 is weak, D5 is weak.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this one is unpleasant. Probably knight D4 was not the smartest idea. For
You
me.
could play queen D5 and try to defend. But I just felt like
Yeah,
might have
this
some
is not.
pressure.
This shouldn't be that much fun for black to play. These pawns are still. Yeah, interesting. So Hikaru, I guess, let him out a little bit with queen C6.
Okay, but I cannot really, I must say, I can't really criticize any of the players because we're playing in a very short time control here.
Oh yeah, of
Mistakes are
course.
bound to happen.
Yeah. This 15 minutes goes very fast.
Yeah, and here I think Hikaru could still play on by after knight d8. He could try maybe rook c3 or something.
Yeah.
And if knight e6, he could play b4.
Yeah.
Just try to put some pressure. But
Yeah, it's
That's
interesting
probably-
that he didn't try. I mean, I don't know if he felt like he's risking too much here, but yeah, I guess clearly.
no,
he,
I
Go
feel
ahead.
because he's playing Magnus, yeah. So I mean, you have people have a lot of respect also for
Yeah,
such a great opponent.
for sure.
But I feel like if I was black here, maybe Hikaru would play on.
Yeah, interesting. All right, so let's move on to the Armageddon game. I don't want to keep you, on the show for 3 hours. So, the Armageddon game.
I don't mind, yeah.
Oh well, thank you. It's very very kind of you to join us today. So in the Armageddon game, they have the same opening and same opening as in game 3, I guess. And Hikaru played A6, which is another line, and
A4.
A4,
And-
knight T5. But he still got. It still seems like Hikaru didn't get the very best position in this one again.
Oh, I must mention also briefly that I've never seen knight d5 move before here.
Knight
So
D5, right?
I've never seen it before.
Yeah, and he played it twice, right? Like he played. I mean, the idea with knight D5, he played twice. In the other game, he played knight B6 and then knight D5, and in this one, he played A6 and then knight D5. So he likes something about this knight D5 idea. I did see one game here between Ding Liren and Aragnan that went for this structure, and it was actually quite a nice game as well.
Oh, they did. Oh, okay.
DC,
This was,
and it's from London,
this
2019.
Oh, right.
But,
Yeah, this was a nice game. Yeah.
Yeah, and so this was with bishop takes c4, and Magnus instead played bishop g3. Now, of course, we're not going to look too deeply because this is a blitz game, so it's
Sure.
But they get this isolated pawn position, and how do you feel about this one? Do you feel like white has a little something here? Or?
After ED4. Yeah, I feel, of course, it's playable for white. It's probably objectively equal, but maybe it's a bit easier to play with the white pieces because you have more space and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel
So-
like it's a bit easier to play.
Easier
in
to
an
play for white.
Armageddon game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, this move a5. I mean, sort of. I think Hikaru after the game said that he didn't mind to be a little bit worse, but he just wanted to have a very solid position so he can move fast and get the time on the clock, kind of back to even, which is interesting. Interesting strategy. But I think this kind of structure is happens in a lot of different variations, and is usually a little bit better for white, I think. Do you
Yeah,
agree
it's
with
slightly
that?
worse.
Yeah.
It's slightly worse for black because the opponent has the bishop pair and c6 is quite weak.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
Hikaru is right because white has usually in the isolated pawn structures, white gets an attack on the king side, but here his bishop is stuck on the wrong diagonal. He has no attack.
yeah. Yeah, the bishop, if the bishop was here to have more attacking chances. So yeah, the rest of the game, I mean, it's a blitz game. So there was one moment here. There was actually a tactic. Oh yeah, in this position, I just wanted to show it because it's a nice tactic. In blitz, I would never criticize anybody for missing some tactic, but there was a nice opportunity to win a pawn, which
Right.
I thought was worth mentioning just to show it as a tactic for the audience. Is
Yeah.
fun. So on any capture on d5 except with the knight, then white has knight f6, and it's kind of nice. So if cd knight f6,
Right.
here bishop f6, and you have either some check, and so it's just lost. I mean, black has to give the rook. Queen takes is the same, knight f6 here, and now check.
Or queen takes f6 also.
Actually, yeah, queen takes f6 is also pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this was a nice. So black is forced to take with the knight, and then you can take the pawn. Although actually, this you still have to work with white. It's not, the pawn up is here, and so you still have to win. Maybe it's not so simple to win in a blitz game, especially.
Sure, yeah. Things are never simple in the blitz. Things
Yeah.
happen.
But this would have won a pawn. So he played queen g3.
Yeah, that's
And-
a very nice tactic, bishop d5.
Yeah. I thought. I mean, of course, I didn't see it myself. I just saw the position, and then I thought it was worth showing it. And
it's very nice,
here, it still looked like Magnus was better until there was a point. Yeah,
It's
he
definitely better. Yeah.
kept things under control, and then this basically at the very end, h4 was a good move here, rook e2, and suddenly he's winning a pawn. Or at least, I mean, he's taking a pawn, and then after queen e5 is when he made a mistake, and it's hard to in blitz. It's of course hard to fault him for not playing the best move. But bishop f7, rook f8, and I think that the computer evaluation here is actually very surprising. Like the computer gives it as +4 or something like that, which to a human, to me, even after I look at it for 5 minutes, it doesn't look like +4. But of course, the computer is right. But I think in the tense moment, it's not so easy to assess all these positions as that much better. But it seems like either knight c4 or knight takes c6 are both sort of playable and good.
Yeah. And if queen takes b2, I think queen d1 or rook e1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
D1,
Some move with the idea that the bishop is not easy to take because of back rank mates, and the same idea with knight c4 is sort of similar in that on knight takes, I think even
bishop takes. Yeah.
bishop takes, yeah, and this position is just really good for white with the king is
outside pass pawn.
yeah, and the king is weak, and the computer gives it as +2 or +3. So it's sort of surprising that it's like so much better. At least to me, it was. But then after queen e5, Magnus played knight b3, and knight takes a4, and he just missed.
No, he went too late. Yeah, but I think Magnus' downfall here is that he got low on time. Like he started with a minute ahead in the game, but then now Hikaru had more time than him, so that's never a good sign in Armageddon.
In a couple of the last games against Hikaru, he was lower on time. So, which Hikaru is very fast, but Magnus usually plays pretty fast too. So it's interesting that he fell behind.
No, I think Magnus is not in his best shape today. Like, unfortunately, in his match against me, he was in very good shape. But sometimes he has off days, like when he lost to Yu Yang-yi, for example.
Yeah, you had some good positions in some of the games though, and these matches can turn pretty quickly. So here I'll just show the end. Magnus, as some of you probably already saw, hung his rook here, which can certainly happen in a Armageddon game, and
he didn't see. Yeah, he must have thought that he was winning because if
Yeah.
queen e1, then white is winning.
Yeah, exactly. If the knight moves, like knight takes b2, then he has rook e4
and queen e2.
yeah, queen b8, queen e2. He may have seen this, and he's actually winning here. So yeah,
maybe in his mind he thought he was winning. Yeah, so that's why
yeah,
he played rook b4 very good. Because otherwise he still has a nice way to draw instead of rook b. I mean, nice way to play on. He could play rook e4.
Right.
And actually, I saw this. Yeah, queen b8, queen f4.
Right. So you can't take because of checkmate.
Mate.
And so you win.
And if
you're winning
you win the piece back, yeah.
And there's no. How does it work if you play like rook b7 here?
Queen e3.
So that's nice.
I saw this actually.
That's really nice. Yeah. With rook e8. Yeah, that's nice. The rook
nice
is.
Trick. And now white wins.
Yeah, this is a bad square for the rook. Yeah, that's nice.
Okay, black can play rook f8 instead of rook b7 and make a draw.
Right, so then we take, and I guess some trades.
Take. Knight b2.
Yeah. Somehow it will we'll take the pawn back somewhere. Knight a5.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
But Magnus totally missed queen e1, so then that's like
right there. Okay, so that's that match. What do you think? What do you think about the final between Dubov and Hikaru? Dubov has played some interesting openings in this tournament. He's a sort of a wild player in terms of opening choices. Anyway, what do you think is going to happen in the final? You don't have to make a prediction, just general thoughts.
No. Yeah, I mean, Dubov is the surprise of the tournament by far. It's clear that he's made a big leap here. I don't think anyone expected him to even reach the semi, let alone the finals. Yeah. Before the tournament, no one could have. Dubov is really the big star and the big surprise of the tournament. For sure, it will be a very fun match. I'll be looking forward to the games. I know Dubov won the World Rapid Championship once, right?
Yeah, I think in 2018, something like that.
2018. So maybe I only played with him once in Tata Steel this year, so I don't know much about him as a player. I'm not sure how good he is in Rapid or Blitz, but it's an amazing feat to crush Sergey and Ding Liren in one tournament, and he won those matches so easily and quickly and so efficiently. It's just it's amazing what he did. So we're basically having this young and new enterprising player with Dubov against a veteran, which is Hikaru Nakamura. I mean, Hikaru plays Blitz, thousands of Blitz games, every year, so he has a lot of experience. So we're having this new player against a veteran, so it's very interesting to see how it goes. If Dubov can keep up his form, like the way he's shown, the way he's played so far, then I would give the chances to be 50-50. But right now I'm still going to give the favor to Hikaru just because he's well tested and everyone knows how he plays. He's been very consistent in speeches this year.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to the final. We have a day off tomorrow. I think you're playing Banter Blitz I don't know which day. Which day are you playing Banter Blitz? The 1st of June, I think?
Yeah, I'm playing on Monday after the match. So I'll be watching the match in the morning. It starts at 9 a.m. here in Minnesota. And then I'll be playing Banter Blitz, I think, during the afternoon.
All right. Well, that's going to be great. I look forward to that, and I will remind everyone to check out your course on Chessable on Fisher Random Chess, and
first, I would like to thank the people who helped me create the course. By the way, Geert Vanderweld and the people from Chessable, and I'd also like to thank Magnus manager Espen. He was the one who invited me to create this course. and I'm always interested to try new things. So big shout out to them, people, Jezebel and Just 24,
All right.
and to everyone who's bought the course so far. Uh, so um, so yeah, also in this time, in this period of year where there are no over the board tournaments, I'm I might also actually do more Jezebel courses in the future. So
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show today. I mean, it was a lot of fun for me. I'm sure it was a lot of fun for the audience as well. And yeah, good luck. Good luck in all of your future tournaments. And I look forward to watching you play Banter Blitz against premium members on Monday.
thank you. I'm very excited.
All
Thank you,
right.
Pascal.
Thanks a lot, Wesley.
Bye bye.
Bye.